Welcome into Pac-12 Preview, and it was a very, very crazy, fun, exciting weekend. Obviously, tournament play going on. Men's and women's brackets are set in hoops, and yes, the Pac-12 got 4 in. I always say 3.5 when you have to play in the first 4 in game, but yeah, the first 4 when you're playing in that. But it's yeah, the women's side saw a 1 seed, a 2 seed, and a 4 seed. So the women in the Pac-12, yes, a little more cachet, will you say? We can say, but I will say this, that on the men's side, it's yeah, just it's the 4 teams, and we'll get into it. Again, your thoughts. I am Michael Caratenuto at Diablo00 on Twitter. Again, feel free, hit me up, all the good stuff. Your thoughts, you saw it. You've seen the brackets. Have you already filled out 100? I have not filled mine out yet, but once again, I'll fill it out. You know, I'll let you know on Friday. But yeah, it's exciting, man. I mean, again, how can you not love this time of year, except for the fact that, yes, it is coming to an end, but just the excitement, the crowds, the upsets. Can we get a Cinderella? I will say this: St. Mary's starting to we'll see. We'll see from. Sorry, I was looking at a film thing, but anyway, I don't. It's fun because of what's going on. Can we get a Cinderella? And everybody says, "Oh well, at the end, the normal teams are there." But then there is a team that did get us their highest seed ever. They did get their highest seed ever, and they can cause some damage. So they're on the men's side. On the women's side, look, it is about the team with the 38-game winning streak, the team that is 32-0 this year, and that is Don Staley's South Carolina Gamecocks. And I didn't know how to phrase it. Everybody's chasing them. I mean, that to overstate the obvious, everybody's chasing South Carolina. But it's almost like back in the day when you think of, like, before the Bulls as a team, the Jordanettes, Michael Jordan and the Jordanettes, whoever was obviously the rest of the team. But on the team, but starting or whatever, the Jordanettes. But I did see a thing. I think it was last night or earlier this morning online on actually on ESPN online, and it said South Carolina and the 67 teams that are trying to ruin their perfect season. And I did think that was very interesting and funny. Interesting because I mean the way they said it, but I mean simple but true. And yeah, there are 67 teams trying to ruin South Carolina's would be a bid at how this affects how this affects on the women's side, women's hoops, because like, yeah, UConn has gone undefeated before, but I mean to do that in a season, okay, the regular season, you think, all right, you might have a night slip up, conference game, somebody, just matchups come, but in the tournament, with it being so final, I mean, Don Staley obviously being a very seasoned coach and player, accomplished player, coach. Yes, you have to just treat it like, yeah, let's go out and play the game. Are the nerves going to butterflies be there? It's natural. Yes, absolutely. Men's and women's side. I mean, you look at it, but for South Carolina and what they've done, I mean, 38 straight. So just think they won their last 6. So they won the national title last year, but they won their last 6 games last year. Which I should have said, which included the national title. Then these next 32. I mean, that is just insane. Think about that at that level too. And wow. So yeah, we'll jump into it and get into it. On the men's side, the 4 number ones, as you know, Alabama, Houston, Kansas, and Purdue. Houston, the overall number 1 seed. I know a lot of Kansas fans aren't thrilled about that. Think it's just an overreaction from the Big 12 championship game, which, like I said, you're going to put stock into the conference tournament. You're put overreacting and in Kansas fans' eyes, they think the committee overreacted. And I mean, did they? Maybe, because Texas won by such a huge margin. But again, it's one game. I mean, you look at Houston on the season, though, and look, I know the Big 12 will say, look at our conference and these teams, the schedule, blah, blah. And Kansas did have 17 quad 1 wins. I understand that. But Alabama finished at 29-5. Houston was 31-3. Purdue 29-5 as well. Kansas 27-7. So, like, for Kansas fans, you're talented. You're still a number 1 seed. I mean, I don't know if that's really like the motivation, like, oh, we weren't the overall number 1 seed. Yes, coaches and Bill Self, thank God he's healthy. Had to have a stint placed in a blocked artery. So that's why he had left the team. I'm sure a lot of you saw. Some of you may have not seen, but he wasn't with the team in the Big 12 tournament. And yes, he had to have that procedure done, but he's in good health, good spirits, and joining his team for the NCAA tournament. So that's good to see. Coach Self is okay. Definitely love seeing that. But yeah, so I mean, those are your 4 number 1 seeds on the men's side as we dive into it. And again, you have any comments, hit me up on Twitter, leave them here, type it in the chat, feel free. But yeah, so when we look at the number 1 seed, So yeah. So with Kansas, again, I see it, but Houston and Kansas is also number one in the West. Houston is number one in the Midwest, where we thought Kansas would be. But hey, I mean, when you look at it, and Memphis did beat Houston. Memphis is a team that's interesting too, and we'll get to them. But Memphis did beat Houston in the AAC championship game, 75-66. So it's Memphis is interesting. I mean, they got out to a 46-31 lead, put up 46 in the first half, and then Houston outscored them 34-29 in the second half, but again, still not enough, 15 down, and then they outscored them by 5. So again, your 10-point game. 75-65. Memphis won it. Alabama cruised to the SEC title, 82-63. And then Purdue cruised to the Big Ten. Well, not cruise, I should say Penn State had a chance. Purdue was cruising if you watch that game. And Penn State battled, man. It was a hell of a battle. And they lost by 2. And 67-65 was the final. Purdue, again, Zach Edey, the big man, who's yeah, he's tough to go through, but 30 points, 13 rebounds for Mr. Zach Edey last night, or yesterday afternoon, I should say. Yeah, and then on Saturday night, I will say this to recap it. The Arizona UCLA, the Pac-12 game, absolutely phenomenal. The last championship game of the conference championship game of the night, and Arizona, who was down by 1 at half and then outscored UCLA by 3 in the second half. You talk about defense is showing out. 61-59 on 2 teams that can score. And don't tell me, oh, Pac-12, they shot bad, you're being a homer. No, if you've seen Arizona and UCLA, first of all, I've said it all year long, 2 best teams in the conference. UCLA won the regular season title, and Arizona won the conference tournament, but they split in the regular season. Arizona takes the championship game. Tubelis, Zulus Tubelis again, who led the conference in scoring and rebounding, 19 points, 14 rebounds. And that's with Kerr Kriisa having a really banged up shoulder and not doing too much against ASU in the semifinals on Friday. And I mean, his presence was a good thing and what he can do, but Kriisa had 6 points in this game, and he was 2 for 4, 2 for 4 overall, 2 for 3 from the 3-point line. So he had 6 points. Like I said, Tubelis, 19 points, 14 boards, and Umar Ballo had 13 points and 8 boards. Off the bench, Larson, who I like his game, man. It's tough not to like his game. Yeah, it's tough not to like his game. Inside out, I mean, he can hit the threes. He had 11 points off the bench, 5 assists, 4 rebounds. So, and then Henderson only had had 2 points, but it was a big 2 for Henderson. And When they needed it, he hit it. So you look at it. But, yeah, I mean, overall, and then you look at UCLA real quick. Bailey had led their team. Amari Bailey led their team with 19 points. He had 19 points, 7 boards, 1 assist, 1 steal. Tiger Campbell, 16 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. Jaime Jaquez did not shoot great. And, yes, that in turn, because of, like I said, what Arizona's defense can do. But Jaime Jaquez, 13 points, 10 rebounds, though, 2 assists, a steal, a block. So he was bringing it. And he was 5 for 18 from the field, 0 for 3 from behind the arc was Jaquez. But these two teams, again, I mean, at the 2-point game, it's just like the season was. I know in LA, the Bruins pulled away a little bit that last weekend of the season. In Tucson, again, a very close game. So, yeah, that was, just the 2 best teams in the conference. And if you watch the broadcast, I mean, hats off to Dave Pasch and, of course, Bill Walton, because 5 teams from the Pac-12 should have been in. They got 4. So, although he was pounding the drum for Washington State, and which that last part of the season I can see, but you can't just take one part of the season. Unfortunately, yes, injuries do are taken into account. But for Washington State, the first part of the season out of conference wasn't terrible, but it obviously wasn't great. And it's they got healthy, and when they did, we saw what Kyle Smith and his team could do. And Walton, again, made a very compelling case for him, but it's the whole season, and there's that. So Marquette won the Big East. They beat Xavier Saturday night. So yeah, it was a heck of a championship weekend. It truly, truly was. And then on the women's side, real quick, when we look, the 4 number ones, of course, the overall number 1, what a surprise, 32-0 South Carolina. So South Carolina, Indiana, Virginia Tech, and Stanford, the Cardinal, are the number 1 seed, and they're our number 1 seed as well. When we look at the 2 seeds, we have Maryland, Utah, thank you very much, UConn, no surprise, and Iowa, no surprise either. So it is interesting. And then UCLA is a 4 seed. So Pac-12 doing good there, but we're going to step aside real quick. And when I get back, yes, we'll dive more into the women's, and we'll start talking matchups on the other side. So stick with us. We got more bracket talk coming up. Pac-12, again, looking pretty good. Hugely represented on the women's side. The men have to work it out for them, but the teams that are there definitely can make a run. More coming up here on Pac-12 Preview. And here we are, back here on Pac-12 Preview. Yes, I am Michael Caratenuto at Diablo00 on Twitter is where you can find me. Comment on in here as well, too. We are talking the brackets. Yes, how it is with the Pac-12. And I mentioned on the men's side a little bit, obviously the four teams, Arizona, UCLA, who both got number 2 seeds, by the way. Arizona, UCLA, USC, and Arizona State. So, yes, the Devils are playing in that first 4. Yeah, they're in the first 4. So, yeah, 4 teams that are in. And on the women's side, like I said, there's Stanford's the number 1 seed. They got one of the 4 ones. Well, they earned one of the 4 ones. Let's go that route. Yeah, let's go that route. They earned one of the 4 number 1s. And then Utah is a 2 seed in the Greenville 2 bracket. They set up the women's difference. So the Greenville 1 bracket is where South Carolina is the number 1 team. The Greenville 2 bracket, Indiana is the number 1 team. That's where Utah is number 2. The Seattle 4 bracket is where Stanford's number 1 and Iowa's number 2. The Seattle 3 bracket, Virginia Tech's number 1, UConn's number 2. But yes, starting with the Greenville 1, where South Carolina, the undefeated Gamecocks, are number 1. UCLA is a 4 seed in there in the Greenville 1, and Arizona is a 7 seed. And then when we go to the Greenville 2, Washington State's a 5 seed. Utah's a 2 seed. And then in the Seattle 3 side of the bracket on the women's side, USC is an 8 seed. And then that's there. And then in the Seattle 4 bracket, like I said, Stanford is the 1 seed there. And Colorado is the 6 seed in that as well. So 7, as you notice, as you going down with me saying that, I know you picked that up. 7 Pac-12 teams on the women's side are in the NCAA tournament, which is no surprise because when you look at the Pac-12, yes, Utah and Stanford again shared Pac-12 regular season title. So you had those 2 were definitely going. Washington State won the women's tournament, which again was like, whoa. So you have Stanford, Utah, Colorado, UCLA, Arizona, USC, Washington State. And Oregon was right there on the line too. And that's a thing, but talking to Jeff Metcalf, very seasoned reporter, and as the tournament goes on, I need to aim to get him on the show. We'll be talking women's. I just had I think out loud at times. It happens. But nonetheless, he's like, at some point, yeah, they've played, they've won some games, but you have to win. And then when you look at the Looking at the Pac-12 tournament real quick, apologies, on the women's side. Yeah, I mean, the Final Four in the tournament, UCLA helped their cause. They beat Stanford, like I said, 69-65. We talked about that. Well, reiterated it last week, and then Washington State beat Colorado 61-49, and then on Sunday, March 5th, great day of March, the Cougs won 65-61 over the Bruins. So for them to win the Pac-12 tournament and solidify that, well, they were definitely going to the tournament, and there were 7 teams, and they got a 5 seed too. So I know everyone talks about the 5-12 upsets and, could it happen? But yeah, 7 teams in again, well, greatly deserved. But like I said off the top, it is South Carolina and the 67 teams chasing them to try and ruin their perfect season. And 2 teams from the Pac love a shot at them. UCLA would get it first. UCLA plays Sacramento State in the first round on March 18th, by the way. And again, this is in the Greenville 1 bracket. So UCLA would play Sacramento State. They would get the winner of Oklahoma-Portland. Just say it's chalk and it's Oklahoma, right? So UCLA plays Oklahoma. South Carolina will play Norfolk State to open up. Then they would have the winner of South Florida Marquette, the 8-9. Let's say it's Marquette. Let's say it's Marquette. So South Carolina takes on Marquette, they beat them. UCLA takes on Oklahoma and beats them. And then in the Sweet 16, we would have South Carolina and UCLA UCLA would get the first shot from a team from the Pac-12 out of South Carolina. U of A, Arizona, and the Dia Barnes, they would have a chance to U of A would have a shot in the Elite 8. So Arizona would have to beat West Virginia. Then chances are beat Maryland. Maryland's a 2 seed. Beat West Virginia, then beat Maryland, and then turn around and probably either Creighton or Notre Dame, I could see. So, but yeah, we're fast forwarding. I'm just giving you an opportunity of who from the Pac-12 would have the first chance to beat or to take on South Carolina and or beat them. For Washington State and Utah, who are in the Seattle 2 bracket, it would be in the national title game that they would have a chance to beat South Carolina. Same for USC. But not the same for Colorado, or like I said, Colorado, Stanford and Colorado, it would be in the Final Four. So you could literally have a final, which would be a rematch from earlier season, which South Carolina, of course, won. As we know, they're undefeated. Stanford, South Carolina on March 31st. And then if that was to happen, Indiana's number 1 for a reason, Virginia Tech, but Utah could definitely go into the Final Four party, as could USC. That'd be interesting because they'd have a matchup against Virginia Tech, and then foreseeably Iowa State, or Tennessee. Actually, Tennessee or Iowa State, USC. Yeah. So, but look, you have 7 teams in. You have a heck of a chance to get good representation in the Sweet 16. in the Elite Eight. I mean, for Stanford, look, they will be taking on the winner of the Southern Sacred Heart game, the first four. Battle for the 16 seed there, Southern University and then Sacred Heart. And they would be yeah, so Southern and Sacred Heart, but then either Ole Miss or Gonzaga, which Ole Miss the 8 seed, Gonzaga the 9 seed, and then possibly Texas or Louisville. Although I have seen Drake twice, they did get a 12 seed, so you would think, Louisville might it could be they keep it close, but Louisville, that Texas on the women's side have looked great. They definitely looked. Texas on the women's side has looked very good. So a Texas Stanford matchup. I know Texas beat them earlier in the season. I want to say. And I want to say Texas did beat Stanford, but that was South Carolina. Well, if you look at Stanford's schedule, by the way, which is sick. I mean, they opened up beating San Diego State handily. They crushed Cal State, Northridge, beat Pacific, beat Portland, beat Cal Poly. They lost to South Carolina by 5, 76-71. Florida Gulf Coast, they beat Grambling, Hawaii, Santa Clara. Gonzaga, they already beat 84-63. Tennessee, they beat 77-70. They beat Creighton at the time when they were ranked 21. Gonzaga was 23 when they beat them. South Carolina, was number 1 when they played them. They beat Creighton right before they went into conference play. Actually, that was So yeah. I mean, they did in conference play. They only lost to USC. Had little hiccups against USC, Washington State, or no, Washington, pardon me, not Washington State. They crushed Washington State. Washington, and then Utah. That last weekend of the So yeah, Stanford has earned a number 1 seed. I mean, you got to be kidding me. So of course people want to complain, blah blah blah. But that being said, 28-5 overall for the Cardinal. So I'll take that. But it'll be very interesting on the women's side. I do know that, and we'll get more into it too. And then by the time we're doing the show Friday, tournament will have the first 4 will have started as well. The first 4 gets underway tomorrow as tomorrow, the 16 seed. So Texas A&M Corpus Christi is going to be taking on Southeast Missouri State. And then that's for a 16 seed to play to the South, which whoever wins that will play Alabama. And then the 11 matchup, well, I guess they kind of heard me because seemingly they were resting off their laurels. They got crushed by Bama in the SEC tournament, but Mississippi State still made their way into the first 4. They are taking on Pitt, which will be very interesting. Very interesting game. That is, tomorrow, Tuesday, as Mississippi State will take on Pitt. Both of those, by the way, on True TV at 3:40. So at 6:40 Eastern time, because time did change. So 6:40 Eastern time, 3:40 Pacific, and then at 9:10 Pacific or Eastern time, 6:10 Pacific, Mississippi State is going to be taking on Pitt, like I said, in a battle for an 11 seed, and that is in the Midwest. So that is for the right to play Iowa State, and that is tomorrow. On Wednesday, the 16 seed matchup, we have Texas Southern will be taking on Fairleigh Dickinson. And that is, like I said, a battle for the 16 seed in the East bracket. So that is for the right to play Purdue. So whoever wins that, between Texas Southern and Fairleigh Dickinson on Wednesday, will be playing Purdue. And the nightcap, of course, number 11 seeds, Arizona State, the Sun Devils taking on the Wolfpack of Nevada. And some transfers from Nevada in that ASU lineup. They hit the transfer portal and they are here at Arizona State. But yes, they are taking on each other at 11 for the right to play TCU, who is the 6th seed. So that is Wednesday at 6:40 Eastern, 3:40 Pacific. Again, Texas Southern and Fairleigh Dickinson, the 16 seed matchup to go play Purdue. And then at 9:10 Eastern time, 6:10 Pacific, Arizona State taking on Nevada. And that is for the right to go play TCU in the West. So the 4 number 1 seeds, I already hit it. Alabama, Houston, the overall number 1 seed, but Alabama, Houston, Kansas, and Purdue. The number 2 seeds, Arizona, Texas, UCLA, and Marquette. So Pac-12 is not that good, but those 2 teams are allegedly good, and they are really good, UCLA and Arizona, which is interesting because they actually could meet in the national title game. I was going to get to that, but and then the other Pac-12 team, which made it, is a 10 seed. And yes, in the tournament, they did lose to ASU, but they swept ASU twice during the regular season. They, again, very good team. Do I think they're in? So I know people are going to be sitting here throwing stuff at me saying, well, you said they should be in. Well, they're in. And yes, they got a 10 seed. That matchup, they're going to beat Michigan State. Like on St. Patrick's Day, they're going to beat Michigan State. To me, it's just, yeah, we'll see what the Big Ten does but I literally, seeing USC play Michigan State again has played good teams. Yes, they've been in the Big Ten, but it's very interesting. You look at Michigan State this year. I mean, they took on NAU. They won 73-55. Gonzaga, they lost to Gonzaga by 1. They ended up beating Kentucky, beat Villanova, lost to Alabama, beat Oregon, beat Portland by 1, lost to Notre Dame, lost to Northwestern, beat Penn State, beat Brown, beat Oakland, beat Buffalo, and then started conference play full-time, beating Nebraska, Michigan, Wisconsin, losing to Illinois, losing to Purdue, beating Rutgers, losing to Indiana, beating Iowa, losing to Purdue again, losing to Rutgers again. Or no, sorry, they beat Rutgers the first time. Losing to Rutgers, beat Maryland, beat Ohio State, lost to Michigan, beat Indiana, lost to Iowa, beat Nebraska, beat Ohio State, lost to Ohio State in the Big Ten tournament. So in Ohio State, not too good this year. But I mean, so yes, a win over Oregon, and an early win over Kentucky, lost to Gonzaga. But yeah, I mean, I read that stretch of games and interesting. So we'll see. Again, they are taking on USC, which again, I feel USC wins that game. But then they would probably get Marquette. Marquette takes on Vermont in the first round there. But yeah, so those are the 4 teams: Arizona, Arizona State, UCLA, USC. For Arizona, like I said, them being a number 2 seed in the South, where Alabama is the number 1 seed. They take on Princeton in the first round, who won the Ivy League championship over Yale. Then they would take on the winner of Missouri and Utah State. And yes, Missouri and the SEC they had a good year, a solid year. Utah State, don't sleep on them. It's no SEC bias, but so Arizona would take on the winner of that. And then, so let's see, you got Creighton and NC State, and then Baylor and UC. Well, I think Baylor beats UCSB. Creighton, yeah, ACC, you got teams in, great, but the conference was, look, Duke's won 9 in a row. Hats off to Duke. They're a 5 seed, and we'll see. But it's like I relate to the NFL playoffs when the Cowboys played the Bucs and everybody, wanted to go off Tampa's game 2 weeks before, how they just trounced the Carolina team who had beat them earlier in the season. But the Cowboys' full body of work, even though they picked apart everything, everybody's like, oh, Bucs. Cowboys smacked them around. So everybody's like, oh, ACC. Creighton, I think takes care of. So Creighton Baylor, that'll be a very interesting matchup. Very, very interesting matchup there. But I think Arizona, again, it'll be tough. Princeton, again, the way Princeton played defense, it's interesting. It'll be interesting. But Arizona, look, what Tommy Lloyd has done is beyond phenomenal. So yeah, I mean, their road to the Sweet 16. I mean, beat Princeton, beat Missouri or Utah State, which they are better than all 3 of those teams. For UCLA, who is a number 2 seed, they take on UNC Asheville, and then they'll take on the winner. Again, another 7-10 matchup, Northwestern and Boise State. If UCLA plays their game, it's not going to matter. They would be in the Sweet 16. So I think the first weekend they played their game, and Mick Cronin looked very annoyed at the end of the Arizona game, or just on fire, not at his team, but just how it ended. And again, classic battle in the Pac-12 championship game. They would take on the winner of Boise State Northwestern. Like I said, even if either one, I see UCLA beating them. Here's the interesting one, man. There are 3 teams from Arizona that are in the 64 in the NCAA tournament. Well, 68. Grand Canyon won their conference tournament, the Antelopes. LaFonso Ellis has been following. His son actually plays for Grand Canyon. So you have Arizona State, and Grand Canyon, the Lopes, which they drew 3rd seeded Gonzaga in the first round. This is in the West bracket. So they got to stay out West, but they're a 14 seed. Would I have liked to seen them as a 12 seed? No, because then they'd be taking on St. Mary's too. So both teams from the WAC there, and Gonzaga crushed St. Mary's in their conference tournament. But that is St. Mary's. I said it in the beginning of the show. I'll get to that in a second, but they're the 5 seed. But yeah, Grand Canyon could actually take on UCLA. And here's the funny thing. Grand Canyon, if they were to somehow upset Gonzaga, and believe me, that would be an upset, just because I like the way Grand Canyon plays, yes. What Gonzaga has, and it's not just on name watching them this year, Again, a few speed bumps here and there, but Mark Few, he knows what he's doing. Prime example, Tommy Lloyd is assistant coach for 20 years, and look at that. Tommy Lloyd's crushing it with Arizona. But Grand Canyon, actually, it could be an all Arizona battle in the second round, in the round of 32. If Grand Canyon were to beat Gonzaga, ASU, again, needs to take care of business against Nevada, and then they have to turn around and beat TCU. If they were to do that, right, it would be ASU and Grand Canyon. Now, a little bit of a long shot. Don't go crazy betting that'll happen. If you have movie money and you want to do it, like my great friend Rooster says, you got the movie money, then rock on, go ahead and do it. But yeah, that could be very interesting. Good for Grand Canyon, man. Good for the Lopes. 14 seed, I think. I mean, had a very good year. I just think that might be a teeny bit low for a conference champ. And yes, with and even some of these 16 seeds that are battling to, play in the first four. Oh, we were in the tournament, but yeah, I mean, truly. But hey, that's how the NCAA set it up. So we all know the reactive NCAA, and they're great ideas at times. But nonetheless, so congrats, hats off to Grand Canyon. But yeah, UCLA would be taking on, like I said, they should beat UNC Asheville and Northwestern or Boise State. So they could have a Sweet 16 matchup with, I mean, literally it could be ASU as well. But TCU, Gonzaga, UCLA in the Sweet 16, that could be crazy. There. And then I talked about, and for ASU, same thing, that have to beat TCU, beat, Gonzaga or Grand Canyon to get to UCLA again. So the road's there. I mean, look, for USC, I mean, Michigan State is going to play them tough. Tom Izzo teams we know are going to be prepared. But for USC, man, I like what the Trojans have done. So I mean, Boogie Ellis, that young man, the way he can score in Arizona. I mean, look, Arizona might be the best two-way team in the country. And UCLA might be like Arizona and UCLA literally has nothing to do with Pac-12. But if you haven't watched them play, in which I have, you can't say that they're not, right? You can't say Arizona and UCLA probably aren't 1 and 2 as the best two-way teams in the country. Their length, what they can do, the high-low. I mean, with on the Arizona side with Tubelis and Ballo, it's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So, look, we're going to be talking about men's. Obviously, the brackets a lot on the women's side. I mean, 7 teams in the Pac-12 on the women's side. Stanford and Utah, obviously leading the way. Stanford, the number 1 seed. Well, why Stanford a number 1 seed? Yeah, okay. Stanford's schedule, Stanford's wins. Yes, they lost to South Carolina. Well, everybody did in the regular season this year. So pick a number, right? But yeah, I mean, I can't. But on the men's side, look, UCLA and Arizona can make runs. Can USC? And look, those are the 4 teams. If you join me here on Pac-12 Preview, I've said it for over a month now. Well, just about a month. Let's go a solid 3 weeks. The 4 teams in the conference that could play that defensively, that can match up with anybody. Now, I'm not saying they win every game. Obviously, none of them are undefeated. But defensively, and yes, Arizona did pull away from Arizona State in the end of that game. Was ASU maybe a little bit gassed after, yes, having a tight one with Oregon State and then beating USC, which to me, well, obviously to a lot, but cemented them in the tournament, even though it's in the first 4 again. And yeah, they were hanging around. It was a 4-point game in the second half, and then Arizona, to their credit, pulled away. But the 4 teams in the conference, I said UCLA, Arizona, USC, and Arizona State, defensively can go toe-to-toe with a lot of teams. Again, they're not going to win every game. I'm not saying they'd go, if Arizona and Houston. That would be a very interesting matchup. UCLA, Houston, USC, and Alabama. You know, ASU, Alabama, all number one seeds. Even Kansas. I mean, Texas showed, and Texas played very good defense. I'm not taking a slight at Texas. I mean, Texas played a hell of a game against Kansas in the Big 12 championship final and won the game in the tournament, Big 12 conference tournament, won the championship game. But I'm saying if you look at what Arizona, UCLA, where they may have just be one like step up from ASU and USC, who, like I said, defensively, those coaches would have their teams ready to match up, and you see what you can do. So if I'm just looking at that, but you know, you have those four, but U of A and UCLA a little bit up top. U of A and UCLA literally could be the best two-way teams, the two best two-way teams in the country. Yes, you got to hit shots. Yes, you got to be consistent. But if you're only giving teams one chance, the good old, basketball phrase, one and done. If you're giving them one chance, then that's it. They get one chance, they miss, you get the rebound, you're going down. Yeah, are you scoring every time? But can you get offensive rebounds? Yes. I mean, we saw what, the high-low with Ballo and Tubelis is just ridiculous, and I've seen it all year in the Pac-12. I mean, Ballo, and if Ballo's, either one of them, yes, can't get in foul trouble, stay out of foul trouble, but they can defend the wing. They can defend down low. They can shoot very well, but they take it to the rim. Yes, they'll kick it out to the 3-point line, but they have those beasts down low, and they will just say, cool, we'll just eat you up down here. You want to take away the 3? We'll just keep putting baskets in, and chances are get you in foul trouble. So, pardon me. But in UCLA, I mean, Jaime Jaquez Jr., the young man who's Pac-12 Player of the Year, and rightfully so. I mean, Tubelis definitely had an argument. He was the first player since what, 2007? No, I'm not going to dig. I have it. But either way, he led the conference in scoring and rebounding. Did Azuolas Tubelis from Arizona, the sophomore. So, look, it's one of those things, where when you look at it, Arizona, it can be right there. And Jaime Jaquez Jr., like I said, the conference player of the year, not a surprise. What he means to that team, what he does, but Tiger Campbell, his experience running the offense. Excuse me. What Tiger Campbell means to that team. And yeah, but they're long too. It's just like Arizona, and they get in your face. And I do know. Like, when you look at like Kenneth Nwuba, a 6'10" senior, the kid from Nigeria, but a 6'10" senior. But the way he defends, I mean, down low, yes, you need to, but even on the wing, and then you get Bailey's a freshman, by the way. I forgot to mention that before. Said he led the team, leading scorer for UCLA in the Pac-12 championship game, but Amari Bailey, 6'5" freshman, the way he gets after it as well. I mean, even Etienne, Mac Etienne, and he's another freshman, and for UCLA and from New York, actually. But the way he defends, yes, he did get a little bit of foul trouble against Arizona. He had 5. And then David Singleton, a 6'4" senior, who, yeah, maybe a little bit more for his defense. He did he did not score. And he had 2 steals, 1 assist, and 1 rebound, but he's matching up on those wings. So the way, again, Mick Cronin hasn't played overall defense. Same thing with Tommy Lloyd. I mean, look, you have Ballo down low. And then also Cedric Henderson Jr., 6th senior. And he, again, just defending that wing, but can shoot the three, just constantly moving, Henderson. And even, I mentioned Tubelis and Ballo. You get Krisa, his shoulder's not banged up, but just pressuring the ball up top, making sure that, nothing is going to be easy. When you can switch everything, you always hear people, coaches say that in basketball. Arizona and UCLA can pretty much switch everything if they truly wanted to. I mean, yeah, Ballo, again, wouldn't probably want to match up against, Tiger Campbell to say that. But to get out there, to keep him in front of him, annoy him till somebody comes back off the screen, he can drop back down. But yeah, you have to get them in positions. And even if you get Ballo out of position, like I said, you have Henderson, Tubelis, Larson, like it's a lot to deal with, as is UCLA, like I just said. So both those teams, again, best probably two-way in the country, both in the top 5. For sake of people, debates on say no, emphatically, number one, they're 1 and 2 cases missed, both in the top 5 of two-way teams in the country. And yeah, it'll be very, very awesome to watch. It gets all started tomorrow night. The first 4, like I said, the games tomorrow night: Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, and Southeast Missouri State for the 16 seed. And they will be playing Alabama. Whoever wins that gets Alabama. And then the nightcap tomorrow night: Mississippi State and Pitt. And that is for the right to play Iowa State on Thursday. So yeah, these two that are on Tuesday, they'll play again on Thursday. The Wednesday games: Texas Southern will take on Fairleigh Dickinson for the 16 seed for the right to take on Purdue. And then Arizona State and Nevada will cap off Wednesday night in the battle for an 11 seed for the right to go take on TCU in the West. So that is that. And then on the women's side, real quick, the first 4 in on Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday, Tennessee Tech and Monmouth will play for the 16 seed in the Greenville 2 bracket, which the winner of that will play Indiana. And then Illinois will play Mississippi State for the 11 seed in the Greenville 1, and that will be for the right to take on Creighton. Oh, I screwed that up. So on the 15th, bear with me real quick. On the 15th, so on Wednesday, we have Southern will be taking on Sacred Heart. Southern will be taking on Sacred Heart for the Seattle 4, for the 16 seed in the Seattle 4 bracket, which the winner of that will play Stanford. Okay. So Southern and Sacred Heart, 16 seed on, Thursday. And then Illinois and Mississippi State for the Greenville 1, which the winner of that will play Creighton. I was right on that. Okay. So then on Friday, the 16 seed matchup is Tennessee Tech taking on Monmouth, and that is for the Greenville 2, and that is for the right, like I said, to play Indiana. And then on the 16th, we also have the 11 seed matchup, Purdue and St. John's. So Purdue and St. John's will be taking So, and that is for the 11 seed in the Seattle 3 bracket, which the winner of that will take on North Carolina. So, yes, that is that's Wednesday and Thursday. Yes, Wednesday, Thursday there. So that's the women's side. But hey, it's going to be fun, man. And Friday, I'm also looking to have a special guest working on Arizona State new head softball coach. Well, I mean, new this season. But yeah, she's been here since the summer. Megan Bartlett, and had a tough series with Arizona over the weekend. They dropped the first two, but they did take the last game at Farrington, battling Arizona, who, again, World Series team from last year. So aiming to have her on. We'll talk more tournament. We'll have some matchups played. Fill out your brackets. Hit me up. Let me know who you think will win it. Yes, let me know who you think will win, because I'm going to fill out my bracket, and I will post it on Twitter at Diablo00, who I have. Well, my main bracket, I fill out like 20 million for fun. But it's a tradition of mine. I've done, but yeah. So we are going to get out of here as wrapping it up. I got to head over to Sun Devil Country, but yeah, everyone. So fill out your brackets. Let me know who you have winning it. I am literally, I have to look at my brackets, because a lot of times I think I'm decided, then I fill it out because I go off of what I've seen and what I know. And again, I've watched more than just Pac-12, because a lot of you know, being a college basketball nerd, as I like to say, which is a compliment, I do like to watch from the beginning of the season when football's still going on. And yes, you see some of these ridiculous matchups, teams blowing certain teams out, but you see the cool early season tournaments too, whether it's Atlantis, Hawaii, Vegas. I mean, back east, all over, teams just playing, in these awesome early season tournaments. So, which goes on their record and counts and helps. But nonetheless, got to fill out the bracket. So enjoy it. Yeah. And spring training here, tournaments here, hockey playoffs coming, hoops playoffs coming. It's an exciting time of year. Shout out to ASU hockey, by the way, as well. Sending out their seniors. It's crazy. Shane Doan. Shane Doan's son. Sorry. I was like, Shane Doan. He scored the first goal in Mullet Arena to open it up, and he scored the last goal of the season, and they got a weekend sweep. So again, Coach Powers got it going the right way, man. A lot of great hockey that's played collegiately. So shout out to them. Senior weekend went very well. But yeah, I am out of here. Enjoy the playing games and stuff as they get rolling. Tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, everything. So yeah, it'll be fun. And I like to say it. I'm out of here. Be safe, and as always, forks up.
from Mississippi.